presented these cases to the prosecution team, and together, and do you see that?
Yes, I see it.
Now, can you just explain what presentation were you making to the prosecution team?
Right. The presentation that I made to the investigation team was from the analysis that I made on the cases that I have received and the post-mortem that I've received and the crime scene photos what I've seen in that. So I presented to them, this is what I see and this is what I'm going to do on my investigations. Because by then, the reports were not yet ready.
Yes.
But that's what I could see on the full crime scene photos and the post-mortem report that I had.
Yes. And are you able to tell us in which dockets were those? Because you told us that you had, at this stage, been given 6 LRC case files.
Yes, the case dockets that I had by then was the Camperdown case 96 of 1, the Places Lie 255 of 7, 2006, the Melvin case 32 of 4, 2007, the Phoenix case of 377, then Nkabinde case 50 of 9, 2011, Westville case 106 of 9, 2000, and the Howick 106 of 2, 2008. Those are the ones that I have firstly received. The ones which are on the list that was which were presented to me by Major General Mabula.
Sorry, you seem to be reading from somewhere.
That would be from, sorry, Chair, I'm apologizing for that. CM1 2/100. It would, the six that
Pardon? The 6 cases you had received are the one that are reflected under paragraph 4 of CM1.
That's correct, Chair.
And did you tell the prosecution team what your views were or your preliminary findings were in relation to those cases?
Chair, when I did the presentation, I think I informed them what I could see on those cases.
So you had not told them what your preliminary views were?
During my presentation, I think I told them. I cannot recall, but I think I told them.
And would you be kind enough to share with the panel as to what in Camperdown, although we don't have the report, what were your views that you told the panel, the prosecution team?
Chair, I don't have the documents with me, but in Camperdown is where about, I think, 6 or 7 suspects were shot and killed inside the minibus taxi. And I looked at how those guys were shot. Some of them were shot inside the vehicle, some were shot outside the vehicle, but I can't remember everything that I could see on those case files.
Yes. But did your presentation extend to the fact that these people could have been massacred or executed?
Chair, it's possible I could have told them that the way those guys were shot, it's questionable.
Yes. And then you tell us that the prosecutors were impressed with your presentation, but were not convinced with how Stale presented his cases.
That's correct, Chair.
Now, can you share with the panel what is it that they were not happy with in relation to Stale's presentation?
Chair, I would say it's difficult to remember everything that transpired. It's 14 years back, so I can't remember everything. But I know that there was presentation made by Stale And Mr. Stale, some of the reports couldn't produce them. We couldn't give explanation of those incidents.
Yes, and as a result, you were then asked to take over from where Stale left off, where Stale was. In fact, they made a request that I take over the cases that Mr. Stale had not yet completed.
That is correct, Chair.
So, in other words, did that give you an indication that they had no intention of calling Stale?
Chair, remember, Mr. Stale is a private expert, so as per working privately, it will depend on the payment. He has to be paid first. So I'm working for the state. So if a request comes from the SAPS, I'll follow that and I'll assist in that.
So, was the intention that they were not going to use Stale further?
I cannot say there was intention not going to use him further, but if there are other sins that he attended, he would have to submit the reports.
Yes. Now, as I understand, when you were brought in on the basis of your expertise, the primary reason you were brought in is for you to analyze the version that is given by those police officers involved and to determine whether in line with what you see on the photos, whether that version is consistent with what transpired.
That's correct, Chair.
Yes. And when one reads the dockets on face value without your report, one gets to see that the narrative perpetuated there was that the police were under threat and they therefore killed these people in self-defense.
That's correct. That's the narrative that was on those when you read all those files.
Yes.
But when you look at the crime scene photos, you look at the post-mortem report, it's completely something different from what they were saying.
Now we'll come to that. So basically, your reports and evidence is what would flip the narrative on its back, basically demonstrate that it's not correct.
Chair, if it's not correct, I'll mention it's not correct.
No, I'm saying yes, your findings would have gone to prove that the narrative was not correct.
Not that the narrative was to check, and if the narrative is not correct, I would mention that.
Yes, and where you find that the narrative is not correct, then it means the narrative, your report would flip the narrative on its back.
That's correct, Chair.
Yes. Now, I've gone through you. Other than the presentation that you made in March, we do not get the sense that you made any further presentations to the prosecution team. Otherwise, you would have told your divisional commissioner.
Chair, I cannot. We met on a number of occasions where they wanted presentation, they wanted to see the progress, but I cannot recall the presentation that I've made to them. It sometimes was just to give the feedback on how far are we and then which cases do we have. But the presentation, I didn't present a lot of cases to them, unless where I presented the reports that I have compiled already.
Yes, but you see, from the reports that we have in the bundle, I think the earliest reports that you've given was in September 2012.
In September 2012.
Yes, it's signed. So, okay, let me ask this. Would you give your report in an unsigned format?
In an
Unsigned format?
No, I'll sign the reports and hand it to them.
Yes. So, the date on which you sign your report, that would be the date on which the report was issued.
It will depend. Some reports will be completed, and if it's completed, remember, we were not working from the office. And some of the reports, I will compile them, I will complete them, and not print them to sign them. But once they request the copy of the report, I'll print them and sign them and hand them over to them.
Hence, I'm saying issued.
Yes, I'll issue them after
signing them.
Yes, after signing them.
Yes, because if we look at, for example, just to go through what you have what we have in your bundle, your Berea case, that would on your bundles, on the annexes. It's starts from 2A1 to 22, but I'm on page 22, madam. Please.
Berea is case 288/0508.
Yes, of 2008. The date there is, are you there? Page 22.
Page 22.
Yes.
On which one?
The 2A.
2A. Yes, I have the Berea case.
The date of the report is 28 September 2012.
That's correct.
So that would be the date on which you issued that report.
That's correct. That's the day that I signed the report and issued to them.
Yes. So if any, so that, and that would have been the and you say you would give it to the investigators.
That's correct.
Yes. So if anyone other than yourself would have seen the report, they would not have seen it prior to this date. No one would have seen the report prior to the date on which you signed it,
I
other
would
than
not
yourself.
say no one could have seen the docket prior to
No, I'm not talking about the docket, the report.
the report. I would not say no one could have seen the report. Could have been that I've printed, but it was not signed. And then the one that I've signed is the one that I've printed on that day, or the one that within that period.
But you see, the question I asked you was that when you issue a report, do you sign them? You said yes. And then the question I'm asking is, when did you give this report for the first time to the prosecutors or the investigators?
I cannot recall, but this one was signed on the date.
Now, in absence of any evidence to the contrary, can we accept that this would have been the date on which you would have issued the report and made it available to anyone?
Not made available, but this is the date that I have signed it and handed it over to them. It could have been, it was printed before, but it was not signed, and then I signed it when I give it to them.
So would that be the case with all of them?
All of them, meaning
Meaning that you would, yeah, because if we can go through the dates, all of them are either, like for example, the Chatsworth one that is on 2A53, it's unsigned. It's signed but it's not commissioned.
Which page were you referring to? 2A5?
53. Do you see it, Mr. Mangena?
I see that, yes, sir.
It's unsigned, so we don't know when would you have issued it.
That's correct, Chair. Remember, we were working from Durban, but if you look at the date on this one was signed while I was back in the office. So some of them, I would have printed them while we were at that site, and then we'll sign them when we get home, or when we print them at the office to sign them.
Now, I just want to go into your reports. If the narrative that was perpetuated by the police.
Before you do that, are you making any connection to this or making any point in relation to 2A22, the signed and commissioned report? And the unsigned or the signed and uncommissioned one regarding, is that Chatsworth?
No,
2A-53?
No, Madam Chair, the point that we're trying to establish from the Colonel is when did he first make these reports available either to the investigators or to the prosecution team? And he tells us he cannot tell us when. He may have printed it. What he tells us that he cannot say as a matter of fact, and that the date of the signature is the date on which he issued it, or he may have issued it much earlier.
Are you making a point of the date of issuance?
Because the point
I'm
is,
trying to understand the question and what you seek to clarify or to ascertain.
the question was, when did the prosecution team first become aware of these reports?
Yes, thank you.
So he tells us that. Now, Colonel, can you tell us, a matter of fact, in relation to all these reports that are in this bundle, when did you first make them available to the prosecution team?
I cannot say when did I make them available to. I cannot recall, Chair. But most of the reports were done while we were busy working on them. And in some of them, because we were working in Devon, and we work the whole week, and then maybe a week we'll come back this side, we'll type a report, or if there's a need of those reports, they'll tell me we need this report by this day. And by then, I'll come and print them when you're at the office here and sign them. When you go back to Devon, I'll hand them back to them.
Okay. Now, just wanted to go through your reports with you, and against the backdrop of the following. The narrative that is perpetuated by the police, we've already gone through that, is that whether they were either trying to arrest the suspect or stop him or whoever, and then produced a firearm, started shooting at them, and then they fired back. Right? That is the narrative. And the charges that have been preferred that were preferred against the Cato men was, amongst others, that they killed these suspects, and after doing so, they planted the firearms to basically make it look like they were being attacked. Do you recall? You know that?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
I get that.
Now, I've looked through your report. Now, the question that I have for you is, at these meetings that you attended with the prosecution team, were you told that the police would, after killing the suspects, plant the firearms?
No, I was not told that they will plant the firearms. That's why I would say in my report that the position of the firearm is questionable. But I'm not saying they've planted the firearm. I'm saying
Yes.
the position of the firearm is questionable.
Now, let's start with your Berea report. I'm on 2A12, and your findings are on 2A19. Remember, this is the balcony gentleman who jumped from the 4th floor.
That's correct, yes.
Yes. And your findings are as follows. After observation of the crime scene photos, post-mortem photos, and post-mortem report,
For the purpose of the record, you must go to the relevant pages.
is 2A-19.
You may proceed.
You say there that after observation of the crime scene photos, post-mortem photos, and post-mortem reports, I could determine that at least 2 shots were fired in the house from 2 different positions. 1 shot was fired from the living room to the hole below the window as shown in photos 11. The second shot was fired from the direction of the bedroom through the window and to the wall as shown in photos 12. Then 12.2. There was presence of blood on the scene, and the pattern on the blood had characteristics of smear pattern. Smear pattern is created by transfer of blood from one object to another through some form of contact involving lateral motion. should that blood on the scene be of the deceased, then what means that the deceased was already bleeding before he fell on the ground? 12.3. Looking at the bullet marks on the ground, I could determine that the shots were fired from different angles. Bullet marks marked 1 and 3 had an angle of approximately 90 degrees. These could probably be shots fired from the flat window from the top. The other bullet marks marked 2 and 4 had an angle of approximately 45 degrees. This could probably be shots fired from the ground. And then we move on to 12.4. The exit wound sustained by the deceased on the right shoulder, region of the right flank and right cheek had characteristics of short gunshot wound off an exit. Short gunshot wound off exit is produced when outstretched skin impaled or sandwiched and crushed between the outgoing bullet and the unyielding object over the exit site, thus leaving an abrasion collar on the wound margin. The degree of shoring abrasion increases directly with kinetic energy of the projectile and the rigidity of the shoring material. This gives the impression that the deceased was lying on the ground when these wounds were inflicted. Do you see that?
Yes, I see that.
And then the next part is the next page on 2A-22, that is where you signed.
Yes, I see that.
And remember, the narrative by the police there is that the deceased was shooting at them.
Yes,
And there was a gun found next to the deceased.
that's correct, yes.
And yet your report is silent on the fact that the gun may have been planted. Why you've not mentioned you're not saying anything about the deceased not having been in possession of a gun or not in your report?
Of the deceased being in possession of a gun or not.
Or having fired at the police.
Chair, as I said, if we do reconstruction, we do a crime scene examination, we look at possible bullet damages, possible bullet marks. There were 2 possible bullet damages in the room. And that's where Warrant Officer Mustard agreed that he fired shots towards the suspect. And there's no way where other possible bullet holes or damages were found inside the house.
Yeah, but
they're not referring to them.
But you're not saying in your report that the version by Mustard that he was fired at is incorrect.
Where was fired?
That he was shot at.
He was shot at
by the deceased.
Right, Chair, as I said, if there's other bullet damages, I would mention that there were other bullet damages to that direction if they are visible on the photos. But if he's saying that the deceased was shooting at him and then he shot back, he's agreeing that he shot at the direction of the deceased. So the bullet damage which are there are to the direction of the deceased, where Warrant Officer Mustard is alleging that he was shooting to. But there's no other possible bullet damages that could be found on the scene. And mentioning that the firearm was there and the shots were fired from, I cannot mention it because there's no evidence that proves that that firearm was discharged in that room.
So you have referred us to 2A-19 and you read through the entire paragraph 12.
Yes.
Now when you look at the heading, those are his findings, and he's written, after observation of the crime scene photos, post-mortem photos, and post-mortem report, I could determine that. So he's making an observation of these things that are included in the heading. Now, your question seemed to suggest that he should have mentioned that aspect relating to whether the deceased was armed or not, or whether his firearm was found. I don't understand.
Yes, Madam Chair, because he does not mention it in his report, but in his statement, he then deals with it.
Yes, but I'm taking you to look at the heading that I've drawn your attention to. That addresses the contents of the entire paragraph 12. He's making observations in relation to those aspects, the crime scene photos, post-mortem photos, and post-mortem reports?
May I just check?
Correct?
Yes, Madam Chair,
Yes.
it does.
And your question is, if you can repeat your question to the witness?
The question is, Lieutenant Colonel, in your report, you do not address the question or the version that is proffered by Mostert that he was shot at, including the version of his colleagues that the deceased, whilst on the ground, fired shots towards Mostert.
Fired shots while after falling from the flat.
Yes, you do not address that.
There's no cartridge cases that could be linked to that firearm if it has discharged any shots. And that's something that I'm not going to look at. When I look at the position of the deceased after landing on the ground, in which position would he be to fire those shots? Because he landed there and then he sustained gunshot wounds to the. And if you look at how he fell, there was the skull was damaged, the brain was damaged. It's impossible for him to discharge a firearm if he's in that condition. It won't be possible for him to fire a shot.
Okay. I accept it.
Would it make a difference if that heading would have included statements by the police, his observations in relation to all these things that he is mentioning, including the statements by the police? Because that is not part of the things that he is making an observation on.
Indeed, so, Madam Chair, but the question that I wanted to ask him is, he did not feel
Now
it.
let's focus on the earlier question.
Yes.
Because I'm drawing your attention to what the observation is based on. And I drew your attention to the heading of that very paragraph 12 relating to his findings. And the headings include the crime scene photos, post-mortem photos, and post-mortem reports. There is nothing about what he was told by the police or the police statements in relation to which he could have made observations in this paragraph.
No, Madam Chair. I think that if one looks at okay, now I accept it, Madam Chair, because I thought it's one of those where you would have had the statements by the police, but in this case, he does not tell us that he had received the statements of the police.
Yes, because he's addressing the findings now. At paragraph 12 that you read to us. The entire paragraph 12 is in relation to his findings on those issues that are included in the heading. Nothing more, nothing less.
Yes. The main question, Madam Chair, just wanted to find in his report, which would have been presented as evidence in court, he does not deal with those issues such as the version of the police, etc., and also the question of the gun being planted there. But in his statement before this panel, he addresses that. So this is what I wanted to clarify from him, to say, what is the one? Why did he not deal with it in his report? And
That's the question you must ask him. That's why I took you to paragraph 12 that you read to us, the entire paragraph 12. So you have to pose the correct question to the witness and not just confine it to paragraph 12, because paragraph 12 deals with only those specific aspects, the findings and his observations in relation to those issues. So if you'd like to ask him that question, you can pose the question to him.
can I do that after the tea break, Madam
So
Chair?
please do now so that...
No, I just want to clarify something with my team, with Mr. Spilimicha, who's my teammate here. Hence, I'm saying, can I do that after tea?
You may confer with your colleague, and so that we don't leave this aspect hanging.
I'm going to deal with it in a number of instances, so it won't be hanging, Madam Chair.
All right. We are going to adjourn now and reconvene at 11:45.
Madam Chair, we do have a concern also with this question, because my learned friend says the statements from the police say that this deceased tried to shoot at Mostert. Now, if we remember the facts in this case, Mostert is in the apartment. There are 3 policemen on the ground. None of those statements say that. So if our learned friends can show us which statement is he talking about?
I'm sure you'll do that, and then you'll deal with that in re-examination, Council. Let's adjourn until 11:45. Then you will proceed, Advocate Mchweni. You are still under oath, Colonel?
I'm still under oath, Chair.
Yes, thank you. Good day, everyone. Good day, Colonel. Good day, Advocate Chauke. You continue to be under oath, Colonel.
Yes, Chair, I'm still under oath.
Thank you. You may proceed, Advocate Chauke.
Lieutenant Colonel, just to correct one thing, I had said to you that in Berea, the deceased had fired shots at Inspector Mostert. I think that was incorrect. In fact, let me just, so that you've got a clearer picture. Madam Chair, that would be just the statement by Mostert at BR 0073.
Which file?
This is the Berea case docket.
Berea. Thank you. What page?
0073. Can you see the document, Lieutenant Colonel?
That's correct, yes.
In fact, what Inspector Mostert.
Wait a minute, Counsel. We are looking for that.
We don't have them here with us.
BR.
I think it's being flown on the screens, Madam Chair.
No, we want to see it in the document.
What page?
It's BR 0073.
It will be helpful if you're going to use the dockets to alert us, because some of our documents are not here, they are elsewhere.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And page
0073.
00.
Can I proceed, Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
Lieutenant Colonel Mangena, I'll just go straight to paragraph 4 of the statement by Mostert, which starts with at 2240. Do you see that?
Yes.
And he says, at 2240, Captain Eva, Inspector Nell, Constable Naidu, and I entered the building. The other members safeguarded the ground area. We proceeded to the third floor to flat number 32. On our arrival, as I noticed the security gate in front of the door. Due to the fact that the suspects could be armed, the security gate was forced open by means of a crowbar. Once this was done, the door was kicked by Inspector Nell. I immediately entered the flat armed with my pistol, a 9mm parabellum with serial number. He gives it to us. As I entered, I was confronted by the suspect, Tabo. He was armed with a pistol, pointing it in my direction. And then he says, I have fired 3 shots in his direction. Do you see that?
Yes, I see it.
You do not, in your report, dispute the fact that the deceased may have or had pointed a firearm at Inspector Mostert.
No, I cannot dispute that, because I'm only looking at evidence that is ballistically related and where there's physical evidence that I can see. in his statement saying that the person was in possession of, I cannot dispute that, and I cannot say comment on that one.
Yes. No, thank you then. I just then want us to go to the Durban Central case. It's 2A, I think your report there. Your report is on 2A-68.
I have it, Chair.
I urge your report.
Yes, I have the report here.
Yes. And if you go to 2A70, under paragraph 3, you telling us that the first time that on the 30th of January 2012 you received a number of LCRC files from commander of LRC Durban, and in that what was included was the files relating to Durban Central case number 185 of 02 of 2009, and what was contained there were the crime scene photos on a disk, crime scene sketch plan, as well as the affidavit by Constable Simpiwe Charles Mkhize.
That's correct, Chair.
So in relation to this docket, the only things that you had at that day are there is only those three items on the 30th of January.
Chair, the items mentioned here are not the statements from a police docket. These are from a file from the LCRC.
No, I'm saying so far as this case is concerned, those are the only documents that items that you received relating to this docket on the 30th of January.
In connection with this file?
Yes.
Yes.
And then you received the rest of the documents on the 6th of March.
That's correct, Chair.
Yes. And this was the case that related to Mr. Mkhize, Bonga Mkhize.
That's correct, Chair.
Yes. Now, the reason I'm asking you this is pertaining two things, the following. The narrative, again, that is perpetuated by the police in this case is that they were on a lookout for Mr. Mkhize, and then as they tried to flag him down, he then started firing at them, and then they retaliated. Do you recall that?
That's correct.
Yes. Now, so that we know what kind of a scene it is, can I just ask that we go to my Pima is not here. To the actual docket itself, that would, Madam Chair, that would be DC quadruple 024. DC.
DC. quadruple 024.
Yes, that is the statement by Raymond Lee.
Constable Lee.
Yes, Constable Lee. Yes.
Proceed, Counsel.
I'm just waiting for it to be shown on the screen for the witness.
Does the witness have a copy of this case docket, Durban Central?
No, I don't have a copy, Chair.
Does the witness have a copy of this docket, Durban Central? Do you perhaps have a copy there, researchers? You can bring your computer because he cannot keep on looking back and reading on the screen. You'd rather read in the screen in front of him. Oops.
Can I proceed, Madam Chair?
Yes, proceed, Counsel.
Yes. It's a statement by Constable Raymond Lee, who we now know that he was part of on that day, he was part of the K. Tomena squad that had a hand in Mr. Mkhize's demise. But what he says in paragraph 3 is that at 1310, a black Lexus registration number, and then he gives the registration number, was noticed driving towards Overport City along Ridge Road. Inspector Stolz and I immediately began following the black Lexus along Ridge Road over the intersection of Ridge and Sparks Roads towards N3. The vehicle movements were conveyed to other members via the radio. The Lexus then turned right into McCord Drive and began to accelerate it to a high speed. I continued to follow the vehicle as it continued at high speed along McCord Drive and right into Highview Road back towards Sparks Road. The Lexus continued to drive at high speed and went on to right-hand side of the road at the intersection of Highview and Sparks to get around several cars waiting on the intersection. I followed the Lexus left into Sparks Road, down towards Brickfield Road. In Sparks Road, I managed to pull along the right side of the Lexus, whose driver's window was down. Mark the word important, down. Inspector Stolz produced his appointment certificate and shouted him to pull over, as we were police. The driver, who was now identified as Bongani Mkhize, proceeded to produce a pistol and pointing it at us. I immediately hit the brakes and pulled in behind the Lexus. The Lexus began to accelerate, going onto right-hand side of the road, going contra flow through the intersection of Sparks and Brickfield, running to Brickfield Road. I was still following the Lexus again, driving at high speed through the traffic. The car then turned right into Roslyn Road, continuing along Roslyn Road before turning left into Pastoral Road. The car then turned left into Claydon, heading past Claydon Road School and down towards Brickfield Road. During all suspects did not slow down. The chase then continued left into Brickfield Road, where the driver ignored red robots, climbed pavements to try and get away from us. The suspect then turned right into Mgeni Road and to ignore the red robots, headed towards town, weaving through traffic. Along Umgeni Road and under the Connaught Road Bridge, the traffic cleared and it was decided to stop the Lexus by shooting out the tires. Shots were then fired towards the vehicle. The vehicle then slowed in Umgeni Road close to BP, and the vehicle contained technical intervention unit members pulled alongside the Lexus, and more shots were fired. Do you see that?
Yes, I see that, Chair.
I'm asking this in the context that in your report, you mentioned that when one looks at the photographs, in particular photo 5, at 28-74,
Do you have the depiction in front of you?
That's correct, I
2874
have-
photo 5?
I have the photo 5.
You have photo 5.
That's correct, I have it.
Thank you.
you would see there on the photograph that you see that when the shots were fired, the window was closed.
That's correct, the window was closed.
Yes. But you cannot, as a matter of fact and certainty, state that at no stage was the window open either before the shots were fired, in fact, particularly before the shots were fired at the vehicle, that the vehicle was, at some point, the window was open.
Chair, what I've mentioned
How
was...
could he say that? Counsel.
No, Madam Chair, remember the police are saying that he had fired at them, he had pointed at them through an open window. So I'm saying that Lieutenant Colonel cannot say, as a matter, cannot dispute the fact that at some point the window was open.
How will he know that at any given time the window was open? That's what I'm trying to ascertain.
It's a question, Madam Chair. If he can deny that the window was never open, he can tell us that the window was never open in his opinion.
Remember, this is a ballistic expert. He's not an investigating officer. He's testifying on his expertise ballistically. I'm going to leave it there. You may proceed.
So, but Colonel, did you notice in the statement the part where the Constable Lee says that the witness had pointed them through an open window?
Chair, I've noticed that, but if you go through my statement, I would say when these shots to the door were fired, the window was closed. Whether
Yes.
at the back there the window was open, I cannot comment on it because I don't have any evidence of that.
So-
But when these shots were fired, the window was closed.
Yes. And what you do not say in your report was that you do not say that at no stage did the witness did Mr. Mkhize point a firearm at the police.
Chair, I cannot say at that stage the other was pointing at the firearm at the police or he opened the window. I cannot say that because I don't have any evidence on that.
Yes. But you then say in your statement, you deal with the question of how the possibilities of Mr. Mkhize having tested positive for a primer in your statement. That would be at 2-19. And you gave an explanation that you said there are 4 circumstances under which one may test positive for a primary residue, and you list them at paragraph 66.
Sorry to to interrupt you, but if we can try, when we put a proposition to a witness, to put it in its proper context. Paragraph 65 doesn't say he says. He says he is aware of Superintendent Stoll's primary residue test, if you can put it correctly.
Yes. Is that correct, what has just been said, that at paragraph 65, you're saying that you are aware of the test results by Superintendent Stolz, wherein the deceased right hand tested positive for primer?
That's correct, Chair.
Yes. And you give four instances under which a person may test positive for a primary residue.
That is correct, Chair.
And you say, one, it's either when the person had discharged a firearm; two, if the person is within 2 square meters of a firearm when it was discharged; three, the person was in close proximity to a discharged firearm; and then four, the person handled or came into contact with a recently discharged firearm. Do you see that?
That's correct, Chair.
And you then say, in fact, you then say that at paragraph 67 on the 2-20, primary residue alone does not establish that the deceased discharged a firearm, as such residue may be transferred through proximity or contact. Do you see that?
Yes, I see it.
Now, in this case, you would have noticed from the Inspector Constable Lee's statement that, in fact, the scene when the shots were fired, it was a moving scene.
When the shots were fired, according to his statement, when they were following the vehicle, that's what is alleged, that the driver shot at their vehicle.
Yes, and although he goes on further to say, even after the vehicle had stopped, the other occupants of the technical team got out and fired more shots.
That's correct, Chair.
But from your analysis of the photographs, could you tell the distance between having looked at the cartridges on so that I'm fair to you? If you go to 28-73,
I'm on it, Chair.
the yellow cones, would I be correct to say they represent the cartridges that were found at the scene?
That's correct, Chair.
Yes. Now, looking at those cartridges, would my assumption be correct that when the people who fired shots may have been standing exactly where the cartridges are?
Maybe standing where exactly the cartridges
Where the cartridges are around that area. Looking at photo 3.
No.
But can you?
When you discharge, especially an R5 rifle, it does not eject the cartridges to where you stand. It ejects them around 45 degrees to your angle. The distance can depend on how you're holding your firearm. If you hold a firearm like shooting from the side, they'll go up and then, but in 45 degrees. If you're holding a firearm straight, they'll go to the 45 degrees. So it can be anywhere around the area, but not exactly where the cartridges were recovered.
Yes. Now, would you say then that looking at the cartridges and where the vehicle is standing, would it have been possible for Mr. Mkhize to be when the shots are fired from around that area, that Mr. Mkhize could have been contaminated by the primary residue, resulting in him testing positive?
It's correct, Chair. It's possible.
Okay. But what you also not dealing with and cannot dispute, what at least from your report, is the fact that Mr. Mkhize may have been in possession of a firearm.
Chair, there's a firearm recovered in Mr. Mkhize's firearm. I cannot say he was in possession of that firearm or the firearm came after the incident. I cannot say that. But the
Yes.
firearm was recovered in his car.
Thank you. Now, I then want us to go and deal with Melmouth.
You go to Melmouth Council. You referred us to photo 5 earlier on at 2A74. That was after you read the statement of Officer Lee,
Yes, Madam Chair.
in relation to which you asked the witness to highlight the words whose driver's window was down. You remember?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Now, this is the version of Mr. Lee saying the driver's window was down, and the witness makes observations in relation to the windows of the vehicle. Look at what, maybe you can look at that photo 5 that you referred us to. You see the driver's window is shuttered.
Yes.
Go to 2A-88 and read the observations that the witness is saying. On top there, paragraph 12.
No, he says, on observation of the vehicle on the photos, I noticed that all the windows of the vehicle were shattered and there were glass particles embedded in the rubbers on the doors. This indicates that the windows were closed during the incident and limit the possibility of shots being fired from inside the deceased vehicle.
I'm not sure what point you really wanted to make in relation to the statement of Mr. Lee, where he said he must highlight that part of the statement. Now I'm taking you to this observation by the witness. Are you taking issues with this observation?
No, Madam Chair, the point that we wanted to make was that whether can he dispute Inspector Lee's version that at some point that window was open. That was when, according to Inspector Lee, they were pointed with a firearm. We do not dispute that when the shots were fired, the windows were closed.
I'm trying to understand that line of questioning because obviously that would come from a factual witness, because if you were to dispute or not to dispute, that would be hearsay. He was not at the scene. He is a ballistic expert, and from the preface of all his reports, it shows that he is called after the fact.
That's correct, Madam.
Now, he cannot be a factual witness. He only deals with what he has been provided with and to analyze.
That's correct, Madam.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand how can he dispute any of the statements, especially factually, when he's not a factual witness.
No, we appreciate, but the point of the matter, we just wanted to him to comment on the version by Lee that at some point that window was open, and that was when, according to Lee, the the deceased had pointed a firearm. You would recall in Annex CM3, he said that part of the investigation indicated to look at the inconsistencies between the version that is provided by the police and as well as the version that is provided by the photographs. So it is against that backdrop that because he had to look at these inconsistencies according to him and make a report.
I beg your pardon. Where does Mr. Lee says at one point the window was open?
Mr. Lee tells them that when they flagged the vehicle, the window was open. That's when the deceased pointed them with a firearm.
Where does he say at one point the window was open?
No, Madam Chair, if we go to Inspector Lee's statement, he says the driver, who was now identified as Bongani Mkhize, proceeded to produce a pistol and pointed at us. In fact, I just want to look for the relevant part. Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. It says, in the Sparks Road, I managed to pull along the right side of the vehicle, whose driver's window was down.
Yes.
So one can.
Counsel, at one point, you see, you must read the statement as it is. That's why I referred you to that part of the observation. And when you read the statement, you said, highlight these words yourself, whose driver's window was down. Now you say, you're making a proposition that at one point the window was down, as if at one point it was opened and then at another stage it was put down. So just read the statement as it is and put the correct version to the witness.
Madam Chair, I think we can all accept that when the window is down, it means it's open.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the proposition that you made, saying, put it to the witness that at one point the window was down. Where do you get that in the statement? The statement simply says the Lexus whose driver's window was down. You say at one point. At one point it might have been open, at one point it might have been down. So I drew your attention to the observation at that paragraph where the witness tells us that the windows were all closed.
Madam Chair, I was referring to prior the incident, and that would be at the time where, according to Inspector Lee, they were pointed with a firearm.
Counsel, I'm simply saying don't make your statement. Read the statement of the witness as it is. The very point that you said we must highlight, we highlighted it. Now you tell him something else. But you may proceed. If you can tell us how far we are going with this matter, because we might have to adjourn at some stage and determine how long you are going to take.
Now, Madam Chair, I think I'll be done very soon. But before 1 o'clock, I think I would have covered.
Before 1 o'clock.
Yeah, I don't have much to cover with the witness. I just wanted to check one or two things with him. Now, if
you wish to proceed after 1 o'clock, give us an indication, then we can ascertain with the witness about his arrangement. You remember we spoke in chambers yesterday and today? So just give us an indication. We are not putting you under pressure, but just bear that in mind.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Now, in the Melmouth case, that was in relation to the Berea brothers. Do you recall that one?
Yes, sir.
Where one was shot on the rocks, and then the other one was shot inside the house, the rendezvous.
Is that the Biela brothers?
That would be in the
The
case.
uncle and the nephew?
And the yes, I call them the Biela brothers. Okay, that would be the uncle and the nephew. Now, but before I continue, there's just one thing that I just want to clarify with you. You said the manner in which you are communicating with the investigators and the prosecution team. If you were to submit documents either to the prosecution team or to the investigators, to whom would you send them to?
The report will be handed to the IO, the investigating officers.
And the request would come, I take it the request would come through the IO.
That's correct, Chair.
Yes. And would it come through by way of an email or would it be a telephonic?
Chair, in most of the instances, when I go to KZN, I wouldn't go there alone. I would go with the IOs. Now, most of the time when we were that side, I was with the IOs. So if I'm with them, I'll tell them the report is ready. Let me know when you need the report. And then I'll print it and I'll sign it and give it to them.
So, now, because the thing is, I just want to clarify this signature thing. It's very important to me. What does the signature signify? The date and the date of it?
The date will be the date that I signed it, and it will be handed to someone to
the IO.
That's correct.
Would it be pursuant to a request from the IO that this report is being requested?
The request will be for me to do the reconstruction, and while I'm done with it, I'll tell him it's ready. If you want it, they'll give it to you, because they've already submitted the request for me to reconstruct the incident. So I won't expect him to send me a letter for the report to be handed into him.
Yes. So when you give it to him, that would be the day that you would have signed it?
It would be the day that you sign, or it would be the days before I handed it to him.
Okay. Now, again, you told us in your statement, but Madam Shall go into the Melmouth case just now, but I just want to make it, because this, I had made a mental note. The other dockets, you said you had done 23 reconstructions, 22, I think. Am I correct?
I think it was 22 or 23.
Yes, and only 10 made it into the indictment.
Yes, I think only 10 or 12 of them will be in the indictment.
Do you have any reason why, despite you having done your recommendations, did the prosecutors decide not to pursue those?
Which ones?
The other ones wherein you made the reconstructions?
And then are not in the indictment.
Yes.
Probably the IOs were still busy with the investigations. So if they're not done with the investigation, they cannot put those dockets into the indictment.
Now, did you, after you had made your reports, sit down and discuss them with the prosecutors?
Which ones? The ones that were not...
The ones that made it in the indictment?
I can't recall, but there are dockets or reports which were cases where they requested reconstruction. I did that, but the indictments were out before you could complete with some of those cases.
No, I'm talking about after you had given them, you had made your reports available. Did you at some point sit with the prosecutors and to discuss your reports?
I cannot recall if I've said after that. But with the IOs, yes, I'll sit with them. Probably the IOs at some stage will sit with the prosecutors in my absence, because I'm not always with them.
No, I was just talking about to you, having consulted with the IOs about your report.
With the IOs, yes, I'll consult.
No, sorry, man. I mean the prosecutors.
I cannot recall, man.
Okay. Now, in the Melmouth case, I just wanted to understand from you, because this for me was a bit of a concern. The firearm being on top of the blood, right?
Yes, sir.
Is it always the case that every time that if a firearm is dropped before blood, there's a blood pool, then that the gun would not flow beneath it? Because you said it would make a pool around the gun. Do you recall that part?
Yes, I remember.
Now, what is it not? What if the surface is an uneven surface? Is it possible that the blood could seep underneath the gun?
Chair, even if the blood will flow underneath the firearms, but it will not cover the whole surface underneath the firearm. There will be what you call a void that will show the sides where blood couldn't get underneath the firearm. But if you look at this one, it's right on top of blood. There's no way where the firearm is in contact with the surface and then blood gets underneath it. It's not possible. If the firearm is in contact with the surface, blood will go around the firearm, but not underneath the firearm.
But can we just examine photo 3? Madam Chair, can we just give a warning that we're about to sensitive content for those viewers who may be sensitive? And the relevant page would be 2A186.
Yes. You have caution?
Yes. Now, if I'm not sure whether my eyes are deceiving me, but if you look at the gun there,
Take us to that
it's
for
2A1.
completeness of the record, please.
Yes, I've said 2A186.
A.
186. Photo 3.
The depiction is that of the nephew to
Mr. Biela.
Mr. Biela.
Yes. That would be deceased B.
This is B.
Oh, the name is, I'm reminded that we should honor them, but through their names, it's Kanyiselani. Kanyisani Biela. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
You pointed us, when you were testifying on this aspect, you pointed us to the blood having being visible through the trigger hole. I call it that. I don't know what is called.
The trigger guard.
The trigger gun. Is that where you base your findings on? That to say that then the gun was placed on top of the blood, because you can see it through the trigger gun.
Not only that, Chair. There you're only looking at for the one photo. There's only, again, there's another photo on 2A205, photo number 34.
What number?
34.
34.
Chair, even on this one, you can see the firearm is on top of blood. It's not, the blood does not come around the firearm, does not create what you call a void, but it's on top of it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. I just wanted to clarify that aspect. Madam Chair, can I just have a 5-minute so that I can just confer with Mr. Hali if or the NPA has got other things they would like me to clarify with the witness? But insofar as I'm concerned, I don't have much to take up with the witness.
Yes, you propose a short break.
Yes, so that I can just confer with the NPA if there are aspects that they would like me to clarify with the witness.
Advocate Andrew, I'm not adopting you.
Yes, I would be adopted by the Zulus or the Tswanas.
Counsel Advocate Mchweni requests for 5 minutes. We will afford you 10 minutes to confer with Advocate Hale. We will reconvene at 10 to 1. Will that suffice?
That would suffice, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, panel. Adv Chauke, good afternoon. You continue to be under oath. Advocate, thank you, sir. Advocate Anthony.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, just two aspects. And Tata Mangana, you testified that at the time the indictment was drafted, the reports were not yet finalized. Did I hear you correctly?
No, the reports were finalized, but not all of them, as some of those reports, the dockets, are not in the indictment.
But in relation to those that made it in the indictment, were the reports finalized at that point, when the indictment was finalized, in
Chair,
August?
I don't know when was the indictment finalized.
It was finalized in August 2012.
So I don't know which ones were finalized, or all of them were finalized or not. I cannot recall.
So you cannot say, as a matter of fact, that all your reports were finalized at that time when the indictment was granted, was drafted.
That's correct, Chair.
Yes. Now,
What is the date, by the way, of the finalization of the indictment?
17 August
17 August 20.
12. Now, the first time that, insofar, just back at the Durban Central case, I have gone through your report, and in fact, when one goes through your report on the documents that you perused, and I'm on 2A70. You list the documents under paragraph 4. You list the documents that you had regard to, and you also make at 4.8, you say you had regard to the statement of J.F. Stolz. Do you see that?
That's correct, Chair.
Would it be the same Stolz that you referred to in paragraph 65 of your statement?
No, the stalls that we're referring to, I think it will be Superintendent Stalls from Scientific Analysis, and the stalls that is mentioned here, it will be Inspector Stalls from the KTOM.
Yes. So I take it that when you did your report, you did not, because you mention all the documents that you had regard to, and you do not mention Superintendent Stolz' report on the primary residue. Superintendent Stolz, I mean.
Chair, it might be that when I receive the dockets, Superintendent Stolz's statement might not have been in the docket. Maybe I received it later. I cannot recall. But if I have received it on the same day, I would have mentioned it also.
Now, let's just look at the date of Superintendent Stolz's report. It is found under DC, that would be under Durban Central on page 193.
Found in the dockets or what?
Stolz's report.
193 of what Council?
DC1.
Thank you, Council. Do you have it, Kazan?
Can you see that report?
That's correct, yes.
And you would see it's marked A25.
That's correct, Chair.
Yes. And I think I saw somewhere that your report was marked A94 or 97 at some point in the docket. But I'll check it. So, and it is dated, if you go to the next page, DC 1000194, it is dated 7th December 2009.
Yes, I can see that, Chair.
Yes, so in all probabilities, it must have been in the docket.
It's possible, Chair.
Yes. And when you were given the docket, it was not given to you because you do not refer to it.
Chair, it does not mean because I didn't mention it that it means I didn't receive it or I didn't see it. I could have seen it maybe at a later stage after receiving those.
You see that the point of the matter is the reason is nowhere in your report do you make mention of Superintendent Stoll's report. Nowhere in your report do you ever even deal with the question of the primer, of Mr. Mbomkize testing positive for primer. Now the question is, could it have been because you did not see the report?
Chair, I think if when I compiled the report, I couldn't have seen the report, but that would not change my findings.
No, I didn't ask whether it changed your findings or not. I'm saying, does the fact that you don't deal with it mean that you did not see it or it was not given to you?
I can't recall when I received it. Possible, and I don't know. I can't remember. I can't recall. It's a long time ago when I received it. Whether when I compiled this, I had it, but the possibility is that I could have heard it or seen it before I complete compiling my report.
But I've got a bit of a concern with your answers. In some instances, when you are asked to commit yourself, you cannot recall. There are a number of instances you cannot recall. One, you cannot recall whether you consulted with the prosecution team. You cannot recall when did you first make the reports available to the prosecution team. You cannot recall whether you were given the report or not.
That's correct. It's 14 years back.
Yes.
I cannot recall all those things.
Now, can we then, but yet you never, when Mr. Toby was asking you questions, you at no stage whatsoever told him that you cannot recall.
I would ask him, I'll answer that I recall what is in my statement. What is not in my statement, I'll tell him I don't recall the date.
I've got no further questions, Madam Chair.
Before you leave the stage, I want to understand something. You say the witness did not deal with the issue of testing positive to primary residue as contained in the Stoll's report.
That is correct. In his report.
In his report.
Yes. He only deals with it in his statement.
He only deals with it in his statement.
Yes.
And you are saying, I want to understand your your line of questioning, you are saying he did not mention the Stoltz report in the documents that he received.
Yes. Because he mentions the documents that he had received and considered.
He mentioned the documents that he received and considered. And I don't have any intention of giving an answer on behalf of the witness. But I want us to go to 2170. At paragraph 4. And I didn't ask for a picture. 21770, that's Colonel Mangena's report, volume 1. That's Durban Central, the same case that we're dealing with.
Yes.
And I'd like us to read paragraph 4 in its context. Here, Lieutenant Colonel Mangena tells us that he received a copy of the police case docket with the same reference number.
I will not see that.
And then he says, amongst other documents in the docket, I found the following.
We'll see that, Madam Judge.
It might be a matter of semantics. I don't know. But I take your point that he doesn't remember other things, but I'm saying this might be a matter of semantics because he says amongst.
You may proceed, Counsel.
No, I'm finished, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Are you finished? Advocate Andrew, it's 1:15. We normally adjourn for lunch at 1:30. Would you like to give us an indication on how far you're going to take, how long a time you're going to take?
Madam Chair, this is going to be very short. If I could be so bold as to suggest that we just carry through.
Yes, may we then proceed? We will take an adjournment at the end of your re-examination.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Indebted to the panel. There are just 3 lines of inquiry I wish to pursue, Lieutenant Colonel. The first line of inquiry pertains to this idea that there might have been something untoward in the way you dealt with the prosecutors. There was even a suggestion that the prosecutors fed you answers and suggestions, and that they did the indictment before and your reports were completed. So it's as if it's the prosecutors that were deciding what would happen and not the investigators and the forensic experts. I mean, can you just confront that proposition head on and explain to us? We got into the scene, I think it was on the 9th of January 2012, and the prosecutors, we know it's common cause, came onto the scene on the 8th of March 2012. So can you just deal with that part pertinently?
Is that the proposition put, or is that the insinuation put that the prosecutors fed or intended to feed?
No, I think it was specifically suggested that the prosecutors told him.
Yes. Gave him answers. Yes. Oh, maybe yes. I didn't hear that.
Told him the conclusions.
I don't think that's correct.
No, I'm happy not to pursue it if that is not the line.
That I can assure you that is not the line.
I didn't get that, but maybe the record will bear us out. But I didn't get that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm happy not to pursue the line if that is not the. But I had understood certainly with my juniors that was specifically suggested. But if it has not been suggested, we are not going to worry about it. Then there is a secondary issue arising from that, which is the idea that the prosecutors decided to issue the indictment before they had received your opinions, which might be an issue of criticism against the prosecutors as opposed to you as the forensic investigator. Can you just deal with that secondary proposition?
Chair, in most cases, I would meet with the investigating officer, but not with the prosecutions. The only time I met with the prosecutions when I was giving them the progress on the report that I have and the feedback on what is it that I see. And the reports were handed over to the investigating officers. I think most of them was prior to the indictment was issued out.
Yes, I mean, most of this is in fact addressed fully in your statement. If I can take you back to your statement, one of the annexures is a letter that you wrote. At page 2/107, it's annexure CM3. Paragraph 3.12.
I see that, Chair.
Yes. Now, that's where you met with the prosecutors and you presented. In fact, both you and Mr. Stale presented.
That's correct, Chair.
Yes. Now, was that before or after the indictment?
It was before the indictment.
Yes. Now, after this presentation, were there any other occasions in which you interacted with the prosecutors to give them your findings, or even if they were preliminary findings?
Chair, I can't recall. After this, it was maybe once or twice, but it was a long time after that.
Yes, all right. So, but I understand, but what can you not recall? You cannot recall the number of times, but you can recall for a fact that you met, or you cannot even recall that you met.
I can recall we met just to give them the feedback, but not taking any instructions or anything from them. But I was telling them, giving them, and I'll tell them my report will be ready this date and date, and I'll hand their reports to the investigating officers.
Yes, thank you very much. Now, there is something that is sought to be made about the alleged discrepancy between the date of the indictment and the date of the signature of your reports. Can you just deal with that?
Chair, with the date of the signature, I would say when most of the investigation was conducted in KZN, and when I type the report or print the report, I'll be in Gauteng.
Yes.
Sometimes I'll print it out, then I'll go to maybe to check or do something. But when I sign them, I'll sign them while I'm in the office and then hand it over to them. And most of them were handed over before the indictment.
Thank you very much. I just want to look at the second line of inquiry then, which is the issue around the killing of Mr. Bongani Mkhize. Now, we know him to have been the gentleman that brought the urgent application to the Durban High Court, interdicting the police from killing him. He is the gentleman killed in the Durban Central case who was driving the black Lexus.
Black Lexus.
Yes. Now, there is a statement of Inspector Lee that was read out, but there are two statements of Warrant Officer Padayache and Warrant Officer Maharaj that I want to put to you pertinently, because they deal with this question as to when did the shooting actually take place. You remember there was an issue, was the window open and then closed and then a shooting?
That's correct, yeah.
I want to bring to your attention what Inspector Maharaj says at DC 000020. I'm told that the researchers have been advised. Yes, and particularly at paragraph 4 of the statement by Inspector Maharaj. Okay, so Inspector Maharaj says the following. Just go to the paragraphs. The above vehicle is talking about the black Lexus. Eventually came to a halt, so it stopped opposite the BP garage on Umgeni Road, and my driver simultaneously stopped the police vehicle. At this stage, I noticed the driver firing shots in our direction. I immediately returned fire with my R5 rifle in the suspect's direction. Now, the only point I wish to make here is that it seems, according to the narration of Inspector Maharaj, there was an exchange of fire.
That is correct, sir. In terms of the statement where he said they immediately stopped the vehicle and the driver firing shots at their directions. So when firing shots at their direction, does that mean the window was closed or the window was open? But here in this instance, the window was closed by then.
I understand, but their allegation is that the window was open. That's what you had to deal with. But the point that was being made in cross-examination was that they could have opened the window first.
Could have opened the window
And then
first.
closed it, and then got shot. But is that reconcilable with paragraph 4?
No, Chair. He said there was exchange of shots.
Thank you. Then I want to look at another statement of another witness who was there. That is, I think it's Warrant Officer Padayache, which is a 000022. Paragraph 4. Now he says, we continued east on Umgeni Road until passing under Corner Bridge when shots were fired at the tires of the Lexus by Inspector Stoltz. So they fired shots at the tires of the Lexus. So this has nothing to do with the shots that killed him. He then says the Lexus came to a stop. Both of them corroborate each other that the Lexus stopped. This idea that this was firing while the vehicle was in motion is not actually supported by the statements. And then it says, on